Why is a high-quality education only exclusive to the rich? I contemplated the answer to this question as I was volunteering at Cypress Elementary School in Pompano Beach, Florida. Cypress Elementary School has a majority of Black students with limited resources and run-down facilities. As I was giving a lesson to a third grade class at Cypress Elementary School, I was teaching them about the Civil Rights Movement when a young girl raised the question, if schools desegregated back in 1954, then why are there no white kids here? It is unfortunate that a young 9-year-old girl is more aware of the segregation happening in American public schools. In 1954, the Supreme Court decision ruled by Brown versus Board of Education ruled racial segregation in public schools in the United States as unconstitutional. Despite the efforts made to end racial segregation in public schools, American public schools remain largely separate and unequal. Students of all social classes and races should be given equal opportunities and equal resources in order to succeed academically. School districts should adjust school funding to ensure that all students receive the high-quality education that they deserve. School districts in America should focus on integrating their schools rather than segregating them. To clarify the meaning on integration, Merriam-Webster gives its own definition: to end the segregation of and to bring into equal membership in society. I have experienced personally the modern-day segregation happening in American public schools. Pursuing a degree in education, I have become educated on the topics of school integration as well as school segregation as I have done my research. As a nation, if we support the idea that education is a great equalizer, then education should be just that, equal and justifiable. You should fight against school segregation. At the end of my speech, you should sign the petition #Strike301 and 302 by the National Coalition on School Diversity to promote school integration. All children deserve to have a high-quality education because they are the minds of the future. School segregation is a major issue affecting the quality of education in America. To begin with, the ignored federal desegregation orders by the federal government have caused school segregation. To show proof, according to a 2014 online article focused on school integration, in more than 300 districts, federal desegregation orders remain active. The numerous active desegregation orders show the lack of legal efforts towards solving school segregation. These active desegregation orders need to be solved effective immediately by the courts. Within the same article, 83-year-old Frederick Gray, dedicated civil rights attorney in Alabama, states his frustration by the unwillingness of the courts to solve school segregation as he says, "I thought at some point they begin to do something, but that has never happened." Gray has remained dedicated towards his position of desegregating schools in Alabama, but even his efforts of high legal power were not taken into consideration by the courts. Another prime example of poor legal actions to desegregate schools is shown in sections 301 and 302, as they both exemplify the use of improper legislative language and oppose school integration. To further explain, sections 301 and 302 explicitly state, no funds appropriated in this act shall be used towards the transportation to overcome racial imbalance in any school, as stated by a petition by National Coalition on School Diversity in 2018. The offensive and outdated language from sections 301 and 302 appropriation bill shows the ignorance of the courts to support school integration. The United States Supreme Court permitted school integration in 1970s. As stated by an online article published by the New York Times in 2012, it says, on April 20th, 1971, the United States Supreme Court upheld the use of busing to overcome racial segregation in public schools. In the 1970s, the actions held by the United States Supreme Court led to major school integration. According to the Civil Rights Project at Harvard University, the school busing policy increased school integration. By 1988, school integration reached an all-time high, with nearly 45% of Black students attending previously all-white schools. If the legal action from the United States Supreme Court enables schools to desegregate back in the 1970s, then the same legal efforts can be taken today to promote school integration. Furthermore, school districts contribute to school segregation by the high property taxes that they receive from more affluent, white neighborhoods. To explain school funding, an online article published by the Salem Press Encyclopedia in 2019 says, state sales tax, income tax, and local property taxes make up the majority of school funding. The amount of money allowed for school funding is based on the amount of taxes that school districts receive from families. The unbalanced school funding distribution forms an equity between wealthy and poor neighborhoods. Describing the racial division of income in neighborhoods, Stanford Center on Poverty and Inequality's annual State of Union report published in 2017 says, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are more likely to experience the high poverty America, while whites and Asians are more likely to experience the low poverty America. A New York Times article published in May 2019 says, schools with mostly colored students receive $23 billion less in funding than those schools that are predominantly white in the United States in 2016. School districts should properly adjust school funding to ensure that all students have an equal and quality resources to promote academic success. Black and Hispanic students attending low-income schools suffer from less adequate resources and less qualified teachers. Contrastingly, while predominantly white schools receive more school funding, so they have better resources and better teachers. Teachers that work in these low-income schools do not have access to the necessary resources to provide their students with a high-quality education. To add further information, an online report published in February 2019 by an education reform group, New York Appleseed, says 42% of teachers in schools with primarily Black and Hispanic students have extra degrees and masters and extra trainings, compared with 57% of schools with larger populations of white students. This information, proved by statistics, claims that schools with more white students have more teachers that have master's degrees and extra trainings. You should fight against school segregation by signing the petition #Strike301 and 302 to promote school integration. Integrated schools will promote racial diversity, better student achievement, and will exhibit long life-term outcomes for the students. Based on a research study published in 2016 by the American Education Research Association, schools that are racially diverse will have positive impacts on academic achievements for students of all races. Students of all races that are enrolled in integrated schools will benefit academically. To additionally prove, according to an online article published in 2004 by the Harvard Education Press, students that attend integrated schools are less likely to drop out of high school. In addition to better academic achievement, integrated schools also teach students lifelong skills that they will need as adults when they enter the real world. Based on a research study published in 2006 by the Journal of Higher Education, says that schools that are racially diverse lead to a better understanding of their perspectives, as well as improvements in critical thinking, communication, and problem solving. Children that attend racially diverse schools are more likely to live and work in desegregated environments later on in life, as reported by a research analysis published in 2010 by Review of Educational Research. An example of successful integrated schools is in San Antonio, Texas. Cited by an online article focused on education equity published in 2018, San Antonio has recently opened specialized schools such as Steele Montessori Academy, Advanced Learning Academy, and Mark Twain Dual Language Academy. These specialized programs allow low-income families to offer their kids a high-quality education. The article also claims that San Antonio is the most economically segregated in the country. These high-quality education programs will attract families from all economic backgrounds, as well as providing transportation to the students that live in different parts of the city to attend. A parent of a student attending Mark Twain Dual Language Academy declares, "It's very important to me that it's very important to me that my children go to a school with a diverse group of students, because that's real life." Mentioned in the same article, with only a short time span, San Antonio School District is noticing significant improvement in student performance. To conclude, I strongly agree in encouraging school districts in America to desegregate their schools because all students deserve to have an equal education. All children, no matter where they live or the color of their skin, deserve to have a high-quality education, and integrated schools will fix this disparity. By signing the petition #Strike301 and 302 by the National Coalition on School Diversity, it will enable federal funding to be used for school transportation as well as other purposes to further school integration. There are many benefits related to integrated schools, and the promotion of encouraging school districts to desegregate will allow children of all social classes, races, and ethnic groups the opportunity to succeed. Thank you.